Okay.
You can use that.
Can I sit on this?
Yeah. Okay.
No, sit on this. I don't have to give a shot. For economic news. Alright, are we good?
Yes.
Very good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
May we meet you, sir?
This is Alabo, Dr. Reuben Saturday Jaja. The Alabo Chief Prince Saturday Jaja Walking House of Power Kingdom, and also the Chairman and CEO of the BFIG Group Corporation, the organization that won the bid for the acquisition and takeover of the Aluminium Smelting Company of Nigeria, located in Ikot, Abasi, Reuben State.
Okay, sir. Can we know more about the ALSCON and what kind of product does it make?
The Aluminium Smelting Company of Nigeria was one of the major industrial projects developed by the federal government. The intention.
Sorry, sir. The audio.
Cut it off.
Start again.
The intention was to industrialize the oil producing area of the nation. And why I mention oil producing is that they decided to use ALSCON to solve one of the major problems of the oil communities, which is the pollution in terms of the flaring of gas. Since aluminum production takes a lot of energy, so the intention of the federal government was to establish an aluminum smelting plant to use the flared gas instead of flaring it into the atmosphere, but to use it to power the production of aluminum ingots. And also, it was designed to broaden the economy of the country by having a manufacturing plant that contributes hard currency instead of dependence only on the hydrocarbon product. So that is some of the reasons why the Aluminium Smelting Company of Nigeria was initiated.
What is the current status of the ALSCON plant, if we ask?
The current status is that since the Russians, or UC Rusal, became the management of the plant, we have seen production has dropped from an average of 30% of the installed capacity of the plant, which is about 200,000 metric tons. So when Nigerians were operating the plant, it was producing at about 30% of that installed capacity. But since the Russians took over in the year 2007, that has declined to a position of zero. And what does that mean? It means that also employees of about 800 in size have also declined to a number that most people say is about 10 or 15. most of which are still expatriates. So since then, about 2013, there was no production whatsoever up to the present time. So the status of the plant as we know it today is that it's a non-producing plant. It's not been put to use to benefit Nigerian people and particularly the economies of the oil-producing communities for which the gas that comes out of it would be utilized in operating the plant.
You won the bid for ALSCON.
Yes, we won the bid in 2004, and the bid was won by BFIG Group Corporation, a special purpose vehicle that was put together as a consortium of many companies, most of them United States companies. The idea was to rehab the plant, bring it back to a position of production, and to realize the objectives for which the federal government cited the plant in the Niger Delta region. So when we won the plant in 2004, because of corruption, they decided to take the plant away from us and give it to a bidder that was disqualified during the bid process. And the bidder was disqualified because, one, they did not put up the bid bond, which was a requirement, and they refused to put up the bid bond. And number two was because they did not follow the bid requirement in terms of completing the form as instructed, but they decided to take the form, remove whatever they don't like from it, and then complete it and send it. So that was perceived by the panel to be a failure to follow instruction, of which we were all admonished that here are the rules. Everybody must follow the rules. So if you do violate, the penalty will be disqualification. So when it was handed over to a disqualified bidder on what they call willing buyer, willing seller guideline, then that is how the Russian group came in to play, and we decided to protest. So we took the matter all the way to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and the Supreme Court, on a vote of 5-0,
Wow.
which is unanimous, returned the plant back to us. But because of corruption and all the interest group behind it, and the fact that we are not within the population group that they prefer, the interpretation and the enforcement of the Supreme Court judgment was delayed, maliciously interpreted, and we had to return to court several times to call the court's attention that how can the Supreme Court of Nigeria issue a judgment and issue specific orders with perpetual injunction and return, in our favor, BFI will return the plant to us. And still, the plant is still under the management of the disqualified bidder.
Have the Rusal group, have they made contact with your group? You know, because they're running it illegally, if you say so. Have they run with?
The last time we met with them was about last year. We're trying to put things together and see if we can work together. But we proposed partnership, and they did not want that. So we now told them we also cannot surrender the plant to them because we are the legally preferred bidder of the project.
Russell is Russian.
Yes.
Difficult to understand why a group that didn't win the bid and rejecting the Supreme Court's ruling. Okay, what's the original capacity for the plant, if you may ask?
The original capacity of the plant is 193,000 metric tons per annum. But it also do have additional 50% capacity of that being installed but not operational. So which means it can go up to about 300,000 metric tons of aluminum ingots, which is what we produce.
If you take over, do you plan for upgradement for this?
Yes, if we take over the Aluminum Smelting Company of Nigeria, we have a plan to diversify the company. In the area of the aluminum production, we will expand the capacity from the original 193,000 and complete the additional 50% and have about 300,000 metric ton production capacity. Why? Because the market is there.
Oh.
We see the market in United States as well as in Europe. But most importantly, we see the market also bubbling in Africa. When you look at the West African region, there's very, very high demand for aluminum products to support various phases of industrial plants that we have in West African countries and the continent. And more so, ALSCON is the only aluminum smelting plant in the continent that is viable in the sense that when you consider the cost of production, energy constitutes about 60% of the cost of production. But we have plenty of gas in Nigeria, which many other countries who wanted to set up aluminum smelting plant do not, and which to a large extent is the reason why their plant failed. So ours have a huge promise, and we decided that we should come and take it and run because we know that the aluminum production in the world is a cartel. The industrialized nations do not want you to produce it. Rather, they want you to come and buy from them.
Is that the reason why you think Rusal, a major international player, may be hindering the setup in Nigeria?
There is no doubt about it, because shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, we have another war, which is strictly economics. war on the search and domination of industrial minerals. Whosoever that can dominate the extraction of industrial mineral and the control of its output will control the economy. As you well know, that while the Russians were under the Soviet system, the West, of course, expanded, signed leases with many countries up to 100 years. Now, this lease for copper, bauxite, gold, all kinds of minerals. Now that the whole world have now come back to playing, doing the best they can in regards to participating in the world economy. So there, some of them decided the best thing to do is to seize the industrial or manufacturing infrastructure. Since the other group have already taken over the minerals beneath the soil, now the next strategy left is, okay, why don't we identify all the infrastructure that manufacture these minerals and acquire them? So you can have the right to the minerals beneath the soil. At the end of the day, you come out and want it to be produced. So this had industrial strategy of the advanced nation. So that was why Russia now decided to finance most of its industrial oligarch around the world to start buying the manufacturing plants of these products. And ALSCON happened to be one of them. And ALSCON is in Africa. So Rusal was basically put together in the year 2003, 2004. And the goal was to dominate the aluminium sector of the globe. And the first phase of it was go around the world, buy off every plant you can find. So they bought it in Ukraine, they bought it in Armenia, they bought it in Jamaica. Everywhere they were acquiring. So when they now came to Nigeria, fortunately for them, we also have interest in buying our own. So that is where the whole issue, started. So Rusal, obviously, as part of his own industrial strategy and their nation's plan to dominate the commodity market and industrial minerals, had all that in mind. But that notwithstanding, what we won the bid, we did everything we could to ensure that our bid victory was respected and enforced. Like I said, the Supreme Court judgment was pushed around for years until today. And because of that, we had to go to many organizations to seek for help to ensure that the Supreme Court judgment is well enforced.
What does the ALSCON plan bring to the Nigerian economy? What does it bring?
The ALSCON plans bring quite a lot. Number one, it stands for manufacturing. In an economy where we have depended on oil production, hydrocarbon, it's a one-sided economy. So ALSCON is a step for diversifying the economy, moving it out of the hydrocarbon nature and begin to pay attention to manufacturing and processing, adding value and not only to Nigeria economy, but to across the board, across the economic community of West African states, because ALSCON was designed to use raw materials from Guinea, where bauxite reserve of the quality or the type that we need for aluminum production is found. Even though we also do have bauxite reserves in the east, northeast of Nigeria, Adamawa, Taraba, Bauchi axis. But those are long-term plans.
Okay.
But you can see the impact of this facility, that it cut across not only Nigerian economy in terms of industrialization, but also affect many other neighboring countries of Nigeria.
So the ALSCON plan connects other West African countries.
Yes, by way of the inputs, which is the raw materials needed to produce our aluminium.
Do we have the market in Nigeria for aluminium and Africa? What's the market like?
Well, the market in Nigeria is growing as our industrial might is expanding. But when ALSCON was producing, about 20% of the output was sold locally. So we see the market in domestic market to be huge. It can even be up to about 30-40% of our product.
Wow.
But majority of what we produce would be for export to companies like Boeing, which is aircraft, can industry, beverage industries, and all that. So it brings in hard currency to the nation. Foreign currency, about 60 to 70% of our product will be sold abroad.
What do you expect from the president-elect Tinubu? What do you expect changes? He's a close friend of yours, and what do you expect from President Tinubu-elect?
President Tinubu will resolve a lot of things. Why? Because he is an industrialist, he's an economist, an accountant, he's a seasoned hand with regards to creating a vision that will drive the economy of the nation. You can draw a good example from what he did in Lagos. I know him because he trained in the United States and also worked with some of the leading corporations here. So he has a dream. His own mindset as to how the economy should function, in my view, is totally different from others. He's not a hand that will come in and begin to think around what to do. And most importantly, I respect him for one thing, and that is his ability to use experts, seasoned experts, knowledgeable technocrats, people who have worked in the international organization with proven track record. He knows how to use people of that caliber, bring them around to assist him, guide him, direct him on how to accelerate the economic development of the country.
Well, the Supreme Court is here to affirm that, but you said you're confident that Tinubu can deliver if it's affirmed.
Yes, I have no doubt whatsoever.
Okay, let's come down to Rivers State. Governor-elect Simlaye. What do you expect from him?
Similai also is of that same class. Don't forget that Similai is a chartered accountant. He has been a seasoned technocrat. He grew through the rank and file of the government.
Pause.
It's something different. It looks like that's something different.
Tell him I'll call him back. Tell him I'll call him back.
Okay, we'll step from that same side.
On that same side.
Yes. Let's come down to Rivers State. What do you expect from the governor-elect of Rivers State? Similarly, Umar.
Yes, I expect the same, just like I just described incoming president. Similarly, is seasoned. He's not coming without a background. He has gone through series of process in terms of working in government, understanding the challenges and the opportunities of government, up to the level of being a permanent secretary and director of finance administration of the State House. And as a matter of fact, the chartered accountant, the chief accountant of the state. He's different when you compare this background to those who have led us in the past. Those who have led us in the past just come mainly from the political field. And most of them have no industrial experience, no administrative experience, but strictly political. Or most of them just left university. But this is a man that have learned through many other leaders by way of his presence within the government. So what we see coming is a man who doesn't talk much, but has accumulated a lot of ideas